Newcastle, they've won no major trophies in his lifetime.
Tony Adams typifies Arsenal's focus on today's outcome, and his capacity to control Shearer could be vital in determining that outcome. Newcastle set the FA Cup final underway. 34 points between these two in the Premiership standings. Although Newcastle can rightly point to not having a number of these players available for the first half of the season, when the die was cast perhaps in their league campaign. Arsenal have beaten them twice in the Premiership. And of course, Newcastle have beaten Arsenal twice in FA Cup finals before, in 1932 and in 1952. Christopher Wray up with Anelka. It's not easy for David Seaman.
That was difficult. Just looking quickly, the systems are pretty much as we said at the beginning, Martin. Estonia is going to play right side. They're going with a back four, Newcastle. Kitsbaya started right up top, but I feel pretty sure he'll be given license to go and wander.
Stuart Pearce with a throw. Kitsbaya, who played here last year for Georgia against England in the World Cup qualifiers. So many international players in this final, and anyone who, as has been suggested once or twice over the season, to think some of the shine has come off the FA Cup, they should be here today and be watching today. Cut to OVERMARS, who's got scorching pace on a scorching afternoon, but Pistone picked to play against him. He's conceded the corner, but you can see that he's got a good turn of foot himself, the Italian.
He's quick, Martin, but I think what he's also picked here, Kenny, is Warren Barton. I think to try and protect them. Didn't quite do it there. Well, that's a little sample of what's ahead on this left-hand side.
First corner comes to Arsenal. Doesn't come quite to Adams. Went over the head of Manu Petit. Adams goes deep. Ball won't reach him again. Parla. Four is Patrick Vieira. It was a little tentative, and Arsenal can't afford to be that. The referee, Paul Durkin, England's official for the World Cup, and a man who will be working with the England team over the next few days to try and help Glenn Hoddle and his men with the interpretation that can be expected in France.
It's funny, you know what a lot of people have said this week leading up to the game, that this might not be a great cup final because they felt that maybe Newcastle would come and stifle it a little bit and try and pinch it. So often we come to this magnificent stage looking for a great game. I think we might just get one today.
OVERMARS, pressed this time by Lee. And Barton quickly on the scene. He's been to Wembley more often to support Arsenal in his youth than to play here. He did get a brief substitute appearance for England in that Umbro Cup back in 1995, but born into an Arsenal family. Winterburn. Shearer trying to press Adams. Touchdown by Christopher Wray. Apart from having more full matches recently than Ian Wright, I think there is a feeling in the Arsenal camp, Andy, that he's also got a better understanding with Nicholas Anelka.
I think that might be fair, but I honestly believe if Ian had proved his fitness, Martin, in the last couple of weeks, he would have played. I really believe that. But Arsene Wenger has been always straight about that. If they're not fit enough in his mind, then he doesn't pick them from the start. And that's why Wrighty's on the bench.
Well, it is the professor up against Kenny Dalglish, the professional.
I know it's a hot day, Mark, but Newcastle seem to have set the stall out right from the beginning to when they don't have the ball. It's about pressure, it's about asking Arsenal questions, even though they're the best team in the country. Every time they're putting players under pressure, they're contesting it.
Ketspire. Kastone, who has experience of finals in European competition, played in the UEFA Cup last season. And he's back quickly to get it over Mars. It's a vital area of the match. Shea Given with a rather tentative kick. A young man experiencing Wembley for the very first time in any capacity. Vieira. Challenged by Dabizas, who's impressed so many in the short time he's been in England. Winterburn trying to take the kick quickly, too quickly.
Just coming at the wrong angle. He saw his full-back partner Lee Dixon make a very long and late run on the right-hand side, and that was his intended target.
Batty. It's not really been too many questions asked of the individual ability of the Newcastle players. A lot of them with bags of experience. It's just they haven't gelled often enough as a team. Kenny Dalglish would point out the number of changes that he's had to make. Of course, half a season without Shearer would hurt anybody.
That little bit of pressure there you saw from Shearer on Martin Keown, Martin. That's what I think they've set the stall out to do. He made him play it quickly, and Martin Keown ended up giving the ball away with a long pass.
It's amazing, you know, Andy. Kenny Dalglish only told the Newcastle players the team just before 2 o'clock. After they'd all been out and had a look at the pitch, you might have noticed that they all went back pretty quickly to find the verdict. Stuart Pearce has had an early bang in the face. I think it was a clash with Ray Parlour, and the player who always accepts the physical side of the game has some damage around that left eyebrow. Doesn't seem to be batting an eyelid, nor would you expect a man like Stuart Pearce to do that. But he might be worried here because Parlour's split it across behind him. Another quick thrust from Arsenal.
Stuart Pearce just got sucked in there, Martin. Sorry, he got sucked in. He got attracted to the ball. You see that, and look at Parlour's running behind. The ball from Dixon. It's an absolute peach. And that was very good covering from Howie.
And Paul Durkins now spotted the blood on Stuart Pearce's face. Derek Wright is the Newcastle physio. Pearce, a loser here with Nottingham Forest. He scored, of course, to give Forest the lead in the final 7 years ago. The referee's still not totally satisfied.
I think they might have stemmed the flow of blood, man. I think they just want to wipe the blood off his face. Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing.
Stuart Pearce would have seen it as war paint, wouldn't he? Here's a corner for Newcastle to defend, taken by Petit. Adams reaching it and reaching up to turn it over, but the goal wouldn't have counted had it gone in. Paul Durkins called a push.
Good movement, I have to say. They are a threat, Arsenal, Martin, and the movement was excellent. We can see him, he's just leaning over the topper. Well, I think it is Stuart Pearce at the end of the day who's all clambering over the top of. Well, they are a threat, they get good movement, they really do test you from corners, Arsenal.
Keown. Knocked down by Dixon, trying to find Parlour. It's run on through, and Christopher Ray played a part in that. Parlour's ball catches Anelka offside, and that's an area, especially with 4 at the back, that Newcastle have got to be very concerned about the acceleration of Anelka in these sort of situations.
This is close, man. I didn't think he was off actually when the pass was played. He's not. I mean, they really take a chance in that. They got away with it that time.
Arsenal driving their way so impressively to the title, those 10 straight wins, then perhaps understandably stalling at Liverpool and Villa, and it's not always easy in football to find that accelerator pedal again. Harry Speed, who's very strong in the air, coming in on the left-hand side and just nicking the header away from Martin Keown. Pearce. Adams alongside Shearer. Helped on by Dixon. Howie making the back pass just a little awkward for Given. And these nervous early minutes of the 1998 FA Cup final. Ketspire turned to make space for the shot, and David Seaman working out his angles right by the post.
Yeah, but that's what I think he'll do. He'll get in that little deep position behind Alan Shearer for the majority, I would guess. He's got great ability to run with the ball, to take players on to Murray Ketspire. He's not afraid to do so, or afraid to hit the ball from distance. Doesn't quite get that one. But I think a decent opening 10 minutes for the underdogs. I think Newcastle have settled pretty quickly and started pretty well.
Petit. Winterburn, who's had personally a wonderful season, but you could say that about so many Arsenal players. Adams missed periods of it. He came back as fit as perhaps we've seen him for many a year. Well, it was a play-on verdict from Paul Durkin as Batty got away from Vieira. Vieira went spinning.
Oh, that's a good decision in my book from where I'm sitting, Mark. It looked like Vieira just saw Batty coming and got his studs caught in the ground, just pulling his leg away. Just there. Well, maybe he get caught fractionally. There isn't an awful lot of contact.
It's Vieira's pass. Not much cover on Pistone, but he didn't need it. But actually had a spell with Arsenal as a schoolboy. Marlett, who used to support West Ham as a boy. He's got Anelka outside him, he could play him in, but Ray Parlour has other ideas. Drops for Anelka, the flag goes up. Wrong option, Andy?
Well, it is because nothing happened, but I think, to be fair, I think Stuart Pearce does well here because he picks up the run of Anelka, Martin. He goes with Anelka. And I think Ray Parlour was using that run just so he could drag it inside on his left foot. First real opening, really. We've had just 13 minutes.
It's hardly been a storming run to the final for Arsenal, who had 3 home draws and didn't win any of those matches. Needed replays against Port Vale, against Crystal Palace and against West Ham. And the toughest team that Newcastle had to play finished one off the relegation places in the Premiership, Everton. That was a difficult start to the campaign. Kenny Dalglish called on Ian Rush as a substitute, but he hasn't called upon him in his 16 players named today. The FA Cup legend.
And he's going to waste his voice, Martin, shouting from where he is. He's going to have to try and get a bit closer if he wants to get instructions out.
That was the captain, Rob Lee. He and Tony Adams, the 2 skippers today, long-time friends. Put out by David Batty, whose Premiership campaign came to a controversial end. His 3rd red card of the season at Blackburn last Sunday, but no suspension affecting this season. Even if we have a replay, which is the law of this particular tournament. There'll be extra time, of course, today if required, and Paul Durkin's refereed these clubs 3 times this season, and 2 with Arsenal and 1 with Newcastle. They've all been draws. Vieira. And out by Berbizas, a real to-do in his native country, Greece, about one of their own playing in a match as mega as this one. Given has not been able to stop the corner.
Yeah, looked like it just sneaked out. There was one Frenchman anchoring in the midfield, looking for the run through of the other one. Looks to get there, but just slides over. But again, these are all about delivery. Can you put it in an area where your players can attack it?
Nicholas Anelka coming back out towards the ball.
I have to say, that's half a chance. The ball's played in, it's attacked. He's almost on the way down, Anelka. I think that's his problem there. He doesn't really get a great deal of height off the ground. It's a little nudge.
There's Anelka, who scored twice in that 3-1 win the last time the clubs met at Highbury in the Premiership in April. I did have the opportunity to have a couple of words with Dennis Bergkamp down in the tunnel, obviously bitterly disappointed and feeling that if the final had come 3 or 4 days later, he would have been able to play it. But he can hardly complain about what life has brought him over the last few months.
Well, he could, but he'd be wrong to.
Here. Question there of whether Paul Durkin wanted to stop the play or allow Arsenal to progress with possession. They were tight against the touchline. He's given the free kick.
Well, it was almost a case for Pearcey there. He got Ray Parlour there and didn't give away a free kick. He thought, well, I'll have another go. That was an easier decision for the referee.
Arsenal reactions to the sight of Ian Wright. Warming up would be the wrong expression today, but he's got to do some stretches. This is Keogh. Berbizas getting a foot to it for Newcastle. Only as far though as Ray. Here's Parlour. Pressed back by Speed. Harry Speed, the most expensive player Kenny Dalglish has ever bought, £5.5 million. There's so many foreigners involved in this final, but it's not necessarily a new thing. When Newcastle won in 1952, their winning goal, the only goal of the game, came from a South American forward, George Robledo from Chile. We're being told, Andy, that the temperatures are in the 90s down at pitch level.
Yeah, it would be, Martin. And as I said, I was here around about this time yesterday, and it was absolutely scorching down there. That's why, I mean, Newcastle have started at a pretty high tempo. They're asking, demanding physically a lot from the players early in the game, especially when they haven't got the ball.
Well, Kenny Dalglish knows that he has a lot of critics. The best way to deal with them is to be a winner on a day like this. And here's a man with a Midas touch.
A little unlucky there, Arsenal. Would have preferred the ball had been allowed to go. Vieira was just striding forward onto it.
So far, it looks as though the team that Newcastle have put out here today are comfortable with the tactics and the formation that's been asked of them. Vieira for Parla, tucking infield, leaving space that Lee Dixon has filled. Back for Parla again, and Newcastle were slow to pick him up. Oh, what a chance! Nicholas Anelka
will not get an easier chance in an FA Cup final if he plays till he's 50. This is the best piece of football of the match. Absolutely brilliant. He sucked speed in, played Dixon wide, a little one going, and I tell you what, I'm not being unkind. It's harder to miss that than it is to score. You just angle it down, you can't miss. You cannot miss. Goalkeeper's not even in the frame of the goal. What more can Ray Parlour do? What a contribution he's just made to Arsenal, and no goal at the end of it.
Well, Nicholas Anelka should have become the third youngest scorer in the cup final at Wembley ever. Still only 19. And it seems on his way to the World Cup with France.
But what great football, Mark. It was the best of the match. We're in now 20 minutes into this game. It's been tight, it's been a bit nervy, I guess, as well. Hasn't really settled. But suddenly Arsenal put a piece of football together, the likes of which we've seen many times this season. Normally there's a goal at the end of it. Ray Parlour couldn't have done much more. Joined in, sucked Gary Speed in, played the little ball out to Lee Dixon, got the return, great running cross, and well, he was saying to Anelka, what more can I do, son? Have an FA Cup final goal. A lot of possession domination, but an awful lot of it, in all honesty, has gone on where the ball is now.
Petit, Anelka chasing, Ray is chasing, across comes Pearce and makes a very important defensive contribution there for Newcastle. But are Arsenal starting to find one or two gaps? Petit. On this beautiful Wembley playing surface.
Well, almost immediately they forced Newcastle to change when they haven't got the ball, Mark, because with Parlour tucking infield and Gary Speed tracking them there, Kitspaya, I noticed there, was way wide on the left-hand side of their pitch, worried about the threat of Dixon should it be transferred again. So that might be something we see from now on. When Newcastle lose it, that Kitspaya just tucks back on that light side in front of Dixon.
Well, Gary Speed is nowhere to be seen on that far side. He's through the middle, and Arsenal have got room to exploit here. With Parlour, Vieira's in the middle. No one really quick enough to get there behind him, and that includes the electrifying Overmars.
Well, just one or two ominous signs, you know, in the last 5 minutes. Arsenal are settling. Confidence is growing.
Adams. Petit, and now Overmars. Can he get beyond Pistoni? Mark Overmars! Halfway through the first half. Well, one Dutchman may be missing, but the other one is there. And he has made it Arsenal 1, Newcastle United 0.
Well, they held their position high up the pitch, and that's always a danger when you're playing against pace. And the ball in behind was an absolute peach from Emmanuel Petit. He just sets it up, a little bit of backspin on it, so it doesn't run away from Overmars. Great strength, and as the goalkeeper comes to spread himself, it's almost a topo. Just a little nudge in between Shea Given's legs. They've been threatening for 5 minutes. The goals arrive for Arsenal.
Well, it's no secret that Mark Overmars took a while to settle when he came into the English game at the start of this season. But I think Arsenal also had to learn how to utilise his talent to the best. They've done that in the second half of the season. And as you saw, 16 goals now for Overmars. And he was going to push that and chase, but he thought Anelka could get there. Shoulder to shoulder, Anelka might have hoped. The referees said that's a foul.
Well, I thought I warned about the centre-backs, about the two playing. And when he got in between the full-back and centre-back, it was left to Pistoni. That was why I wondered whether they might play the five, the three centre-backs in there, just to make it a little bit tighter. Defend a little deeper. not allow that type of situation to arise. It's not easy in the whole of a 90 minutes not to allow space in behind you. They went in with the 2 centre-backs and they've been caught early in the game.
Lee. Now batting. This competition that has often been so kind to the underdogs, but they are a goal behind in this final. But Batty, and we've hardly had a sight of Shearer yet. Ketspire chased, but the flag has gone up and it is a goal kick.
Well, it gives us a chance to have a little look at the opening goal in this game. It's Petit's vision and Petit's quality with the left foot. But you see the way the ball just had a little bit of check on it. It wasn't running away from Overmars, but it kind of sits for him. And from then on, it's about his pace and his strength to just hold off Pistone and do the rest with a little toe pop through the legs.
Shearer for Bart. Arsenal closing down Newcastle quickly. A mistake by Pistone under pressure from Overmars, but he was put under pressure in a much more important area by Manu Petit, who's got a perfect record for those passes so far. Pistone couldn't cope, and Overmars. Arsenal have the lead, and they have the winning habit. Not something you can say about Newcastle in the Premiership.
No, I think they've got to clear their heads, Newcastle. I think they just cannot allow themselves to go too down, Mark. That's rocked them, that goal, there isn't a doubt about it. It's vitally important that we do clear their heads, experienced players. Down there talking to the less experienced, making sure, come on, dig back into this game, get a foothold.
Right. Parler, who started this game as a very influential figure. Winterburn. Arsenal cock a hoop at the moment. Now some of their older fans might be saying we didn't score first when we won the double in 1971. There's a FA Cup final against Liverpool. Pistone. Just having a look around to see where Shearer was, but he's now played the ball weakly, and Shearer read his intentions. Ketspire made space for a shot, and it's a good shot too. David Seaman made rather light of the save. Hit with plenty of power by the Georgians.
Made light of it simply because it's straight at him. But this will give Newcastle a bit of confidence. The first real serious attempt on goal. Again, Ketspire showing that he's quite happy just to shift it and hit. All in one movement, it's a good strike, but right down David Seaman's throat.
Arsenal, often criticised in the past, at best respected, suddenly winning friends as well as football matches. Newcastle, of course, were fated up and down the land for their football. Recently, they've not always pleased even their own crowd, let alone the neutrals. And rightly or wrongly, they're having to live with negative labels pinned on them. Petit. Warren Barton going in, but just before that, Paul Durkin had spotted an infringement. Dennis Bergkamp, desolated not to be playing a part. He's behind Alex Manninger there, who should also get a mention today, who filled in so well for David Seaman, who missed the 4th, the 5th and the 6th rounds. But Dennis Bergkamp, Dutch delight from the sidelines for his compatriot Mark Overmars. Howie. speed. It'll run on for Ketspire. He's got Shearer with him, but Shearer has Adams with him. Vieira. Arsenal trying to use their pace on the break again.
Well, I've got it. Look at that. That is absolutely blinding.
He had no right to get that, Nicholas Anelka. And he probably had no right to shoot from there either.
Well, he had every right to shoot because he made that run and won the ball. So no one's going to take that right away. But look at that. He's given him 5 yards, but he just blows him away. That's unbelievable pace. And it is disappointing from there because just out of shot and coming up on the outside, Ray Parlour making ground.
But Shearer coming to get the ball to feet, and that sees Gary Speed trying to make the extra man through the middle, but